freedom, whereas population growth is a quantitative increase. The interference occurs when the pace of population growth outstrips the capacity of social institutions, leading to a dilution effect. As Gunnar Myrdal notes in Asian Drama, rapid population growth in soft states creates a cumulative process of underdevelopment. Body, critical points of interference, 10 points. The dilution of public services, infrastructure, schools, hospitals, grows arithmetically, but population grows geometrically. Malthusian echo. Example. Despite building thousands of new schools, Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan, the teacher-student ratio remains poor, 140 plus, in states like Bihar. High dependency ratio. A large young population, 0 to 14, consumes resources without producing, diverting funds from investment, infrastructure, to consumption, food, subsistence. Thinker. Cole and Hoover argued that high fertility limits capital formation needed for development. Feminization of poverty. Frequent childbearing restricts women's social mobility and workforce participation, keeping half the population in developmental backwardness. Thinker. Esther Boserup highlights how women are marginalized in development when reproductive burdens are high. Urban involution. Rapid migration leads to over-urbanization, where cities grow in population but not in industrial jobs, creating slums rather than suburbs. Data. Approximately 40% of Mumbai's population lives in slums, Dharavi, with zero social security. Erosion of environmental quality. Development requires resources. Overpopulation depletes them faster than nature can replenish. Ecological footprint. Thinker. Ulrich Beck, Risk Society. Modernization plus population pressure creates global risks like pollution, pandemics. Nutritional divide. Food production has increased, green revolution, but per capita availability is stagnant due to population pressure, leading to hidden hunger. Example. India ranks 111th in the Global Hunger Index, 2023, despite being a top food producer. Administrative overload. The state machinery becomes a firefighter, constantly managing crises, droughts, crowds, epidemics, rather than planning long-term social change. Decline in quality of life. Crowding leads to psychological stress and loss of privacy, affecting mental health. Sociological concept. Simmel's blasé attitude. Urban overcrowding makes people indifferent and apathetic to others. Social conflict. Competition for limited developmental benefits, reservations, jobs, triggers inter-caste and inter-regional conflicts, e.g., son of the soil movements. Intergenerational inequity. The current large population consumes the carbon budget of future generations, compromising sustainable development. Conclusion. Population growth is not just a neutral number, it is a friction against development. However, as Amartya Sen argues, the solution is not population control, force, but development as freedom, empowering people, especially women, will naturally reduce population growth and solve the interference. 2. Relation of Indian population problem and economic development. Introduction. The relationship between population and economy is a classic debate between population pessimists, Malthusians, and population optimists, Boserupians. In India, this relationship has shifted from being a clear liability in the 1970s to a potential dividend today, though the reality is complex. Body, the economic dynamics, 10 points, labor surplus, Lewis model, positive, unlimited supply of labor keeps wages low, which can attract manufacturing, e.g., China's rise. Negative, in India, manufacturing didn't grow enough, leaving this surplus labor trapped in the low-paying informal sector. The demographic dividend. India has a youth bulge, median age 28. If skilled, this group can drive GDP growth. Critique. Without jobs, this dividend becomes a demographic disaster, unemployment. Capital formation struggle, high population, right arrow high consumption, right arrow low savings, right arrow low investment. This slows down economic modernization. Market size. A population of 1.4 billion creates a massive consumer market, attracting FDI, foreign direct investment, in sectors like telecom and FMCG. Land fragmentation. Population pressure on land has reduced the average farm size to less than 1.08 hectares, making agriculture economically unviable and pushing farmers into debt. Pressure on infrastructure. Economic efficiency drops due to congestion costs, traffic jams, power cuts, caused by overcapacity usage. Unemployment and underemployment. Data. India faces jobless growth. The economy grows, but jobs grow at a slower rate, leading to the rise of the gig economy, Uber, Zomato, with no security. Brain drain. The cream of the population, IIT, IIM graduates, migrates to developed economies. India bears the cost of their education, while the West reaps the economic benefit. Remittance economy, positive. Migrant workers send back till $100 billion per year, World Bank, which supports the rural economy in states like Kerala and Punjab. Inequality, K-shaped recovery, population pressure exacerbates the gap. The asset-owning class benefits from cheap labor. The labor class suffers from wage stagnation. Thinker, Thomas Piketty, returns on capital grow faster than the economy, increasing inequality in populous nations. Conclusion. A large population is a double-edged sword. It is an economic asset only if human capital formation, health, skill, keeps pace with numbers. As of now, India is struggling to convert its quantity into quality. 3. The core problem, resources and social inequalities. Introduction. The core sociological problem of population is not how many people, but who gets what. It is a problem of distributive justice. The crisis is defined by dysfunctional density, where social structures break down under the weight of numbers. Body, impact on resources and inequality, 10 points. Tragedy of the commons, Garrett Hardin, common resources, air, groundwater, are overexploited by individuals acting in self-interest, leading to collective ruin, e.g., Delhi's toxic air. Water apartheid, scarcity leads to social segregation. Rich colonies get piped water, slums rely on the tanker mafia. Water wars are becoming caste wars in villages. Spatial segregation, slums versus gated communities, overpopulation forces the poor into ghettoized spaces, slums, while the rich retreat into fortress societies, gated communities with private security. The class divide in health, concept, medical poverty trap. Private healthcare prices rise due to demand. The poor are pushed into debt for basic treatment. Educational dualism, population pressure creates a two-tier system. International schools for the elite and dilapidated government schools for the masses, cementing class inequality for the next generation. Conflict over land, son of the soil, example, Maratha or Jat agitations are essentially battles for limited resources, land, jobs, amidst a growing population. Gender inequality, in a resource-scarce family, the boy gets the milk, education, the girl gets the chores. Scarcity intensifies patriarchal bias. Digital divide, with 1.4 billion people, access to the digital commons, internet, determines life chances. The connected class progresses, the disconnected class stagnates. Vulnerability to disasters. The poor are pushed to live in hazardous zones, floodplains, hill slopes, due to lack of space, making them victims of man-made natural disasters. Food security paradox. We have enough food, buffer stocks, but accessibility is the issue. The poor cannot buy food due to inflation driven by demand. Conclusion. The core problem is that population growth acts as a multiplier of inequality. It makes the rich richer, cheap labor, and the poor poorer, resource scarcity. As Marx argued, overpopulation is a specific condition of the capitalist mode of production, created to maintain cheap labor. 4. Root analysis, causes and consequences. Introduction. The causes of population growth in India are deeply rooted in the social structure, caste, patriarchy, agrarian economy, not just biological urges. The consequences are visible across social, economic, and environmental spheres. Body A, causes, structural and cultural 10 points, universality of marriage, marriage is a religious duty, sanskara. A single person is socially ostracized. Early marriage, despite laws, child marriage persists, Akshaya Tritiya mass marriages, extending the reproductive window. Son meta preference, the cultural need for a male heir, putra, to light the funeral pyre and carry the lineage, vansh, drives families to keep having children. Poverty as a cause, for the landless poor, an extra child is an extra pair of hands, asset, earning their keep by age 6. Thinker, Mahmood Mamdani, people are not poor because they have large families, they have large families because they are poor. High infant mortality rate, IMR, parents have insurance births to ensure at least one son survives to adulthood. Lack of female agency. In a patriarchal setting, women have no control over their bodies or contraceptive choices. Religious, cultural beliefs. Children are seen as God's gift, prasad. Contraception is sometimes viewed as interfering with divine will. Joint family system. The cost of rearing a child is shared by the extended family, reducing the burden on biological parents and encouraging higher fertility. Low literacy. Lack of awareness about family planning methods and the benefits of a small family. Slow decline of death rate. The gap between the rapidly falling death rate due to medicine and the slowly falling birth rate due to culture caused the explosion, demographic transition stage 2. Body B, consequences, categorized 10 points, Demographic consequences, skewed sex ratio, pressure for small families plus son preference equals female feticide. Aging population, future burden of caring for the elderly. Social consequences, crime and deviance. Large cohorts of unemployed youth are easily recruited into gangs or radical movements. Fragmentation of family, stress of overcrowding leads to the breakdown of joint families. Economic consequences, disguised unemployment, too many people working on small farms with zero marginal productivity. Dependency burden, high state expenditure on subsidies rather than innovation. Environmental consequences, deforestation, forests cleared for agriculture, housing. Groundwater depletion, India is the largest user of groundwater, leading to a water emergency. Political consequences, vote bank politics, large populations are manipulated based on caste, religion rather than development issues. Health consequences, malnutrition, stunting and wasting in children due to sharing of limited food. Migration crisis, distress migration creates slum cities with poor sanitation and high disease load. Quality of education, crowded classrooms lead to poor learning outcomes, ASER report. Housing shortage, rise of unauthorized colonies and homelessness. Global standing, India's per capita income remains low, affecting its geopolitical soft power despite a large GDP. Conclusion. The root cause is structural backwardness. You cannot solve population growth with just condoms. You need social security, so parents don't need sons for old age and female empowerment. IV. Future-ready topics for exam edge. These are high-probability topics for future UPSC mains. Use them to show contemporary understanding. The graying of India, feminization of aging trend. By 2050, 20% of India will be elderly. Issue. Since women live longer than men but have less financial power, property, we will see a crisis of poor, widowed, elderly women. Thinker, Ashish Bose warned of this shift from demographic dividend to geriatric burden. Climate migration, ecological refugees, trend. Rising sea levels, Sundarbans, and heat waves, central India, will force millions to migrate. Sociological angle, this will create a new class of stateless people within India, leading to conflict in destination cities. Demographic tax versus dividend. Concept. If the youth remain unemployed, the dividend turns into a tax, high crime, social unrest. Relevance. The Agnipath scheme protests were a symptom of this demographic anxiety. Infertility as a social issue. Trend. While we study overpopulation, urban India is facing rising infertility due to lifestyle stress. Impact. Rise of art, surrogacy, IVF, leading to new ethical, legal debates on commodification of motherhood. Biopolitics, Foucault, concept. How the state uses data, Aadhaar, Health ID, to monitor and control the population body. The population is no longer just people, it is a dataset to be managed. Next step for you. Would you like me to create a mind